Hello, good and faithful people of the Church, the Mediator. It's Father Dale. And my question for you this week is, how do you practice rest? How do you practice Sabbath? Before I go there, my weekly announcements. As always, reminder that this Sunday is the second Sunday in Lent. It's a pretty normal Sunday here at the Church of the Mediator. We will have our 9 a.m. Eucharist in English and our 1 p.m. Eucharist in Spanish. And other than that, it's a relatively restful Sunday, and we're trying to practice a relatively restful Lent. Returning to my question, how do you practice rest? How do you practice Sabbath? We will read the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, at the beginning of the liturgy on Sunday morning, and the fourth commandment is remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And I was reminded of that this morning in the daily office. The daily office right now, one of the readings is moving through the letter to the Hebrews. And this last line from today's reading from Hebrews chapter 4, verse 10, struck me in a way that it has never struck me before. And the line says, "A Sabbath rest still remains for the people of God. For those who enter God's rest also cease from their labors as God did from God's labors." Hebrews 4:10. How do you keep a time of rest? There's a sermon in a collection of sermons called Fleshing the Word by a priest that became a friend of mine when I served in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. His name's Reverend Reed Isaac. And Reed was known in his day for being an exceptional preacher and served on national church things and was a force in Episcopal publishing and a priest in New York. Reed, in one of his sermons in this collection, Fleshing the Word, talks about the recovery of Sabbath. And I wanted to read a couple of bits of Reed's wisdom. This would have been probably in the late 80s that Reed wrote this. And if ever that issue of not being able to keep Sabbath is the case, we in our lives today perhaps have fallen even further into the sin of the constant grind and the constant need for activity. Reed opens his sermon by saying, "We have lost control over our time. What sense does it make to talk about observing Sabbath when our time is not our own possession? Business and industry have no hesitation about sending one or both parents of a family out of town for long stretches of time, with the airlines providing financial incentives to stay over Saturday night. Sunday morning is a time for breakfasts in support of some good cause or some good educational institution, some cultural group that thinks the Christian Sabbath is the only available time to reach the people they need to reach. Young people have to choose between their church and a hockey team or a swim team or a soccer team. Runners are urged to race for a good cause on a Sunday morning. Young people have jobs at grocery stores now open early on Sunday. They cannot attend worship if they want to keep their jobs. Even those who are beyond the age of racing or playing sports get restless as the Sunday service moves toward the opening hour of a Sunday football game. In light of all this, how can we talk about regaining a Christian Sabbath?" He says the Sabbath was the great gift of the Jewish people to the world. According to their tradition, one day in 7, no one was to work. Of course, we know that to be the concept of Sabbath. But of course, the Sabbath day for our Jewish siblings from sundown on Friday through sundown on Saturday, for us traditionally as Christian people, Sunday, the whole day. The concept of Sabbath is not just a commandment to not work. It is God's invitation for us as people of God, as the letter to Hebrews says, to enter into rest, into the fulfillment of all things, into heaven, into paradise, even now, which is just being with God. Nothing to achieve, nothing to have to do further, just resting and enjoying each other's company. And Reed quotes Rabbi Abraham Heschel as saying, "In the tempestuous ocean of time and toil, there is an island of stillness where a person may enter a harbor and reclaim their dignity. That island is the seventh day." Reed speaks, amid the pressures that life puts on us, we need someone or something to which we can turn for acceptance that does not demand that we be clever or forceful. We need someone or something that does not require that we be a hotshot. We need some place where we can acknowledge our vulnerability and know that being vulnerable is all right. We need some presence in which we can let go of our striving, and by letting go, allow the pieces of our world to fall into some different patterns. The church has many ministries, Reed Isaac says, but surely its major ministry is to help people find Sabbath time. The church should invite us out of the rat race and into our union with the power, the goodness, the wholeness of life. We need to know that life is a gift before it is a work. We need to know that life is a gift before we know that it is a work. How do you keep rest? How do you, in this time of Lent, my good and faithful people, engage in Sabbath keeping? May you find that place of presence, of vulnerability, of acceptance, of love, of just being. I'll see you on Sunday.